So fall down into the circle, the spiral of misery. Hey, this is Andrew Reversa with Impact Soundworks, and today I'll be showcasing Shreddage IBZ. This is our newest guitar virtual instrument for KONTAKT, and it's really an evolution of Shreddage 2, this instrument that we've been developing for years. It features a totally new guitar, a new engine, new features, really everything from the ground up has been redesigned, and you can use it either if you already have Shreddage 2, or even if you don't, you can use it as a standalone thing. Now, before I go into the interface and the new engine and all the awesome new stuff that we did, let me play a song that I wrote using IBZ along with Shreddage drums and a few other plugins. So let's play that now, and then I'll talk about it and do a walkthrough. All right, that's the track. It's pretty heavy. I tried not to do metalcore this time and instead go in a little bit of a different direction. Basically, what we have going on here, we have Shreddage IBZ double tracked for the rhythm. And I also have Trillion here for the really low bass. Let's see. We have Shreddage drums. And then, of course, the leads are also IBZ. And then in the intro, these clean guitars, well, relatively clean, those are IBZ as well, and so is this. So lots of IBZ all over the place. Now, before I walk through the track, let's take a look at the interface and the things that have changed since Shreddage 2 and some of the things that have remained the same. You'll notice that the interface shares a lot of similarities with Shreddage 2, but we've made quite a few improvements to make it a little bit more streamlined and easy to use. For example, before there was both a perform and a fretboard page, and now we've combined that onto one page. So the fretboard and the fretting engine have all been improved. And one cool feature that we have is if you hit show hand, you can actually see where the virtual hand is. And I'll show you approximately what frets you can reach at any time and what your maximum span is. So if you have a low fret and a high fret, it'll show you the distance there. We have controls, pretty self-explanatory ones for things like gain, transpose, DI noise. We now have vibrato and unison bend on here, so you can actually right-click and then you can automate these and put them on whatever CC you want. So that's a handy new feature. Of course, we have double tracking and quad tracking like before. Then under advanced, a lot of these features are carried over from Shreddage 2, but again, there's some cool new stuff. So for example, if we hit this eye icon, we can see the fret range that is preferred for the instrument. So here, if I play any notes, it's going to try to stay within those frets that are highlighted. And now if I go ahead and move this, let's say I put it up here, then it's going to try to stay within that to the best of its ability. Let's show it again. This is a really nice feature if you are a guitarist and you're trying to more strictly define how the notes are being played. And of course, you can also change the hand size. We've also added a new picking mode, economy. So if you pick on the same string, you get up, down, alternating, or down, up. And then if you go up and down a string, so if you start on the low string and then you go up to the high string, it's going to do that all downstroke. So that's a realistic new picking mode that we've added. There's a string selector like before. So if you've used Shreddage 2, you'll be familiar with a lot of this. But again, it's just an enhancement in terms of how it looks and how it works. Before I move on to the articulations page, let me just actually go to my mixer, and I'm going to, for now, mute the other guitar so that we are just using one guitar, because I'm going to make changes to it. And by the way, Shreddage IBZ is a 7-string, and it does go down to G, so that's pretty awesome. Okay, so now we're just hearing this one. Under articulations, a lot of this, again, is similar at first glance to Shreddage 2, but there are some major new improvements. For one thing, you'll notice that the sustain, mute, and staccato articulations, you can now switch them between single notes and power chords. So you can actually have power chords as a mappable articulation instead of having power chords in the low range and single notes in the high range. Now, if you want to keep the same mapping as Shreddage 2 or Shreddage Classic, then just hit Legacy mode, and that's what will happen. So then that's the same mapping as Shreddage 2. Otherwise, you can map each articulation to anything you want. So for example, right now I have sustain on the high velocities, and then mutes lower, and then stuff like staccatos on a key switch. So if I hit, let's highlight this, we'll hit E1. And we can turn off that key switch very easily. We've got pinch squeals and harmonics. So again, pinch squeals like that, classic. In addition to pinch harmonics, we also have regular harmonics, and these could be assigned again to velocity or key switch. And then we have MIDI CC as another new mapping feature. So let's say you prefer to use MIDI controllers to switch articulations. If you hit CC, you can assign which CC to use. So let's say 48, and then here's the range that it'll switch in. So if you wanted to, you could, for example, have a pedal on a certain MIDI CC and use that to switch between different articulations. And of course, we have hammer pull and portamento, and then the effects are now their own articulation too. So instead of having those in a separate patch, now they're in articulation like anything else. So those are all those cool noises, slides, and scrapes that are really great for adding realism to a performance. And again, we'll go back to just the normal thing here. Looking at the engine for a moment, most of this is ported over from Shreddage 2. So we've got things like sustain pedal to legato, split MIDI channels, which has been improved. So that works even better with a MIDI guitar than before. I've got anti-repetition to make things a bit more realistic. We've got more extra pick noises to select between. So we've got quite a few samples in there to use, or you can alternate. Some additional legato controls, and then things for release noises as well. So that is similar to Shreddage 2. A new feature that we added in Shreddage IBZ is our new effects rack. And this consists of the screamer pedal, which we had in Shreddage 2. We also have a new amp cab sim with a whole bunch of different impulses, as well as we've got a compressor, chorus, and delay. And then the amp itself actually has 2 different models. And then there are 3 EQs provided. We've got the preamp, post-amp, and then post-cab EQs, all of which can be adjusted. They're all parametric. If you already have your own amp sim that you're using, like Revolver or a Guitar Rig, then you might not find as much of a use for this because it's basically providing the same functionality. But if you don't have your own amp sim yet, or you're using this in standalone mode, or you just want to do something fast without loading external effects, and this is a great solution. Here I've loaded up an effects preset that came with the library, and I'm going to go ahead and play. Let's hear what this sounds like, and then I'll cycle through some of the cabs just as an example. Now keep in mind, I'm not double tracking here. You can actually get some great tones out of this, and there's a lot of tweaking features. There's a stereo doubler and so forth and so on. So I think it's pretty cool. We also have this brand new advanced tab, and this has some features that are for users that want to go way under the hood. So for example, you can change the portamento timing, the offsets, the crossfades. You can change things with the offsets for downstrokes versus upstrokes, whether you want it to be natural or whether you want to have upstrokes maybe a little bit more aggressive. You can change things with the palm mute layers, which ones are used, etc. So now let's talk about the track a little bit. I'm gonna go back to the beginning here. Let's look at the different elements. So we've got a pad. This is from Celestia. And then here we've got IBZ. And what I did to give it a little bit more of a spacey feel is I actually automated the pitch up and down a bit. To give it that waviness. A lot of the transition sounds, again, are from Juggernaut, which would be no surprise to anybody by now. Oh, whoops, I gotta unmute Trillion there. Okay. Here, there's a combination of single notes mixed with mutes on the low velocities. And then here we've got choke noises, which are, just for added effect. We have shreddage drums playing at the same time, just to give it a little bit more weight. But what I should mention is shreddage drums is just part of the picture. I also have some additional one-shot samples. I'm using Black Octopus Leviathan to give it that extra kind of electronic drum sound that I was going for in the track. In terms of the amps and stuff that we have going on, so there are two guitars here, left and right. And this is based on the Chemical Thrash preset in Guitar Rig. A lot of people ask, what I do for amping for my own demo tracks, and honestly, I usually start with presets from Guitar Rig or Revolver, one of the two, and then I just tweak a little bit with EQ and stuff. So it's Chemical Thrash on the left, and then on the right, this is Heavy 800. So I guess the key thing here is I'm using the Lead 800 amp, and that really makes a big difference. So then we have some extra stuff going on, things like this. That's just sort of free sample. It's a reverse snare. And then, okay, let's play this. Okay, and one thing I should mention is the portamento going on. So just like in Shreddage 2, the portamentos sound really, really good. So if you do a note and then instead of sustaining this out, if you do a short note, then you get that cool slide down the neck. And then here's the big deal. So just some soloing on my part. You know, I'm not a guitarist, and honestly, I'm not even a great keyboard player, but I think IBZ sounds really, really good for leads. It just has such an awesome tone to it. It's really thin and bright compared to Shreddage 2, which is more full, and you don't get as much of that pick sound. Most of the techniques here are things that I've showed in previous videos. I'm using, you know, pitch bending. I'm using mod wheel automation for vibrato. That's real vibrato. And then I'm using portamento slides in between notes. Just for fun. Maybe I'll just play around a little bit. So, you know, I'm not a great player, but just with using a little bit of pitch bending and mod wheel, you can get some awesome lead tones out of this. As the track goes on, we've got some awesome chugs here. So looking at the rhythm sequencing, it's really just a simple matter of switching between sustain notes and then mutes. And you can also change the tone of the mutes quite easily. So if I turn off trillion, and if we switch between different velocity levels, you'll hear it's drastically different. Here I bring in another guitar, and this one has a different amp setting, playing staccatos. This one has a bunch of EQ on it, and it is using, again, a Lead 800. I guess I just really like that amp. And I'm using the ultrasonic cab on that one. So that is sort of punctuating the rhythm guitar. So one guitar is playing tremolo down here, and the other one is playing sustained lead notes. And all those awesome pitch things, what's happening is, we've got, look at that, it's just huge. And again, the portamento really goes a long way. If I go to the other guitar, one thing that you'll notice is on the first note that it's playing, let me mute the other guitar. So we got this. That's such a long, it's such a long dive in pitch because I changed the pitch bend range from here to here from 2 semitones to 12 semitones. And I did this using just simple MIDI automation. There we go. There it is. So I went from a default of 2 to 12, and you can do that in KONTAKT. You just go to Engine, Pitch Bend Range. You can learn MIDI automation, and then you can change it during the track. So if you want to be subtle at one point and then louder at another point, you can do that. Now in terms of drums, this kit is called By This Axe. It's got a 22-inch kick, got a 14x6 steel snare, and then just 10 through 16-inch toms. And we're using some of the internal effects like EQ on this, as well as tape saturation and transient design on the kick. And the snare is just EQ and reverb. Of course, you can learn more about this in my Shreddage drums video. Anyway, that covers the overview of Shreddage IBZ. This library is available now. You can get it if you're a Shreddage 2 owner for just $99. If you don't have Shreddage 2, you can get it for $119. It is compatible with KONTAKT PLAYER. You do not need anything else to use it, and you get all the awesome features as well. So if you already have Shreddage 2, as you can see, this adds a lot of new features. Again, it's a completely different guitar So they actually go really well together. You could use Shreddage 2 for rhythm and IBZ for lead, for example, or you could have both guitars, one on the left, one on the right. Much like in a real metal band, you would often have two different guitarists playing on two different guitars. Anyway, this has been Andrew Aversa with Impact Soundworks. I hope you enjoy Shreddage IBZ, and rock on.